We do this once a year, State of the Meetup, just to give you guys an update of what we've done for the past year, what we're looking at to do in the next year, and then we call them moonshots. Moonshot means big projects that we're looking to do. So whether we succeed or fail, it's beside the point, is that at least we do it, or we try to do it. So what we have here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the past year because some of you guys have heard the story, some of you have not. RouterGods started pretty much as a joke. It did start as a joke. We were all working at a hosting provider in Orange, California. It's called VPLS Crypt. Pretty large. Now I think they're probably 5,000 servers or something like that. Dedicated servers along with VMware VPS, virtual private servers. And we were becoming a Cisco partner. And as a Cisco partner, you need a certain number of CCNAs, CCNPs, CCIEs, all that stuff. So everyone needed to get certified or recertified. My stuff had expired. So we started studying at the Grind Coffee Shop in Cypress, California. Some of you may actually know the place. It's right across from Cypress College. Met there a couple times. And then my coworker came up with, said a joke and said, wouldn't it be really strange if you started this as a meetup and, got other people to come? So I started as a meetup, and then we started meeting in Panera Bread, Foothill Boulevard in Pasadena. Met there a couple times. Actually got kicked out a couple times too, because we became a little large. So, and then our first co-organizer, Anna Cecilia, she's from Peru. She was in the U.S. and now she's since moved back to Peru. She helped us quite a bit with some of our meetings when I was too busy. So turned out well, and the rest is history. I'd like to thank all of our current and past co-organizers. You guys have helped a lot with doing the meetups. So definitely couldn't have done it by myself, or else I probably would have gone on a shooting spree or something like that. But thanks everyone who's helped out so far. So everything in the past year, we have been pretty much for a while, the largest Cisco meetup group, almost 1,100 members. I think we're 4 shy of 1,100, so we'll probably hit that by the weekend. We have worldwide reach, literally worldwide reach. We have members everywhere, and I get emails once in a while from Bangladesh, places in Africa. People pass their CCNA by watching our videos. We've got members who aren't as talkative in the chat rooms and the email lists, but they are watching. They do use our stuff, so that's good. We are also the busiest Cisco group. So being large is one thing, but being busy is a different deal altogether. So far, 555 meetings, which is insane. That's an insane amount of meetings. In the past year, we've done, of course, our Cisco meetings, mainly CCIE study groups, but we have done CCNA and CCNP level stuff, but not really in the past year. We had our Wireshark series. Everyone remembers, or most of you guys should remember that, the Wireshark series, which is now the number 2 rated YouTube video. If you search for Wireshark, we're number 2. So that kind of explains the hits I've been getting on that video. Catherine has been doing data center stuff, which is awesome. Good gear and good labs that people can play with that you normally wouldn't get. So that's all been great. And we've been using a combination of Fuse, which we're using now for our big meetups, and Google Hangouts. Fuse, we've been grandfathered in for the cheapo price. So I stuck with Fuse for the big meetings, but for the Google Hangouts, we're now using Google Apps for Work, which gives us 15 people instead of the 10 people by default. And that's just for my account, but I think we're okay for that. Slack Room, great success right here. Was recommended by James. I didn't even know about Slack until January. We tried it out, worked out well, and as of now, we have 169 people in the Slack room, in the Slack room, meaning they've joined the Slack room. As far as active people in the Slack room, sometimes we get up to 20 at a time. So it's pretty good. It could be better, but I'm happy with that. Has taken a lot out of our email list. So our email list used to be really busy, and so now it's dropped down, but that's good. That was the whole point of going to Slack, was to cut down on the emails. And we were averaging 500 messages a day in Slack. That's a combination of the public and private, which is pretty amazing to me. YouTube channel. You've probably seen some changes with the YouTube channel. It's been redesigned and cleaned up. Logos, looks a little bit more professional. There's been a couple reasons for that, both personal and professional. Personal being, we've been approved for YouTube Studio access. So that means I can go on site to the Google YouTube studios in LA and use their facilities. I had to pay my pint of blood for that. I had to do some changes, but I think that's okay. Yeah, I think it all turned out for the better. We've got 16,000 subscribers, more than 16,000 subscribers, and more than 10 million views. So that's pretty good. Back in March, we did our Bangkok bootcamp for 2 weeks, CCNA and CCNP. Got a pretty good turnout, very surprised with the turnout, and it seemed to be a good success. We're taking the lessons learned from that into future boot camps. We're going to do a Bangkok boot camp every year around March. Positioning. So a lot of people, not a lot, but there's been some talk about, do we compete with other groups? Do we replace, can I just use RouterGods stuff instead of, Cisco 360 or CPT Nuggets or INE? If I go with you guys, do I have to buy INE? So we have always maintained that we provide a community for people who study, much like places like Tech Exams or Tech Exams is probably the best example, but like the Cisco Learning Network, where you have the chat, not the chat rooms, but you have the forums and stuff like that. We do a very similar service. We provide a community and we provide supplemental training. The key word here is supplemental. So it's assumed that you're learning through INE, you're learning through Micronics, you're learning through community college, university, whatever, and we help you out with stuff that gets confusing. So we don't replace your training, we supplement it. What we provide right now is a community along with a very busy chat room with supposedly, I hope, less riffraff. The reason for the less riffraff is we force everyone to use their first and last names. So using first and last names, we cut down on the anonymous trolling and stuff like that. So something you may have seen on, Group Study, which I don't know what happened to Group Study, but they seem to have cratered in terms of busyness. They were busy 3 years ago, now not so much, so not sure what happened there. We don't compete with any vendor. In fact, thanks to all the people who have helped getting discount codes for vendors, Cisco Press, I think Frank helped with that. So now you can use RouterGods as a code to get 35% off. We've got Micronics. We got the 10% off if you mention us. I think Paul is helping out with INE. And I think INE has always helped us out if you've mentioned RouterGods. They help out people generally if you say something like, I need money or I don't have a lot of money. So they're pretty good with that. And then Catherine's working with IP Expert. So that should cover everything. Maybe we'll work on CBT Nuggets or Pluralsight. BS. So we'll get a comprehensive listing of discounts on that. So we should be okay as far as getting discounts for your primary training. And of course, I highly encourage people to join other groups. A lot of people say, well, you guys don't offer this meeting or you guys don't offer CCNP meetings. Well, don't wait for us to offer CCNA or CCNP meetings. Join other groups that have CCNA or CCNP meetings. So Tech Exams is a great resource for a community, for a forum type group. The New York Meetup is, I think the New York Meetup is the second largest group. Something like, I think they're 1,020, 1,023, something like that, members right now. William runs it. He's a great guy. Joined their group. They have a lot of physical meetups, but they also do online meetups as well. So if you're in the New York area, definitely join them. And we don't compete with New York. We're completely separate. This is not a East Coast, West Coast rapper war type thing where William and I are doing drive-bys against each other. We can completely coexist. It's meant to be that way. Concerns seen by leadership and other members. So we do listen and hear what everyone's saying, and we do take notes and see what we can change. My biggest concern right now is our onboarding process. So what we see now is a lot of people join. So let's say 10 people join, and they might be busy for the first week or so, and they tend to drop out. So maybe out of those 10, 3 really stick with us, and 7 kind of lurk in the background. What we're also seeing is you have people join, and they kind of look around, and they never introduce themselves, and then they drop off. This, I think, can be helped by changing the onboarding process. So right now, when people join, and I'm sure new members will probably agree with this, you get sent an email, which is basically a wall of text. This wall of text hits you, and it basically has a link to another wall of text. All right, so you get an email that points to the FAQ, which is just several thousand pages, or not several thousand pages, but several thousand words long. So I'm sure people join, and a lot of them don't read the email. We know this already. A lot of people don't read the email. And on top of that, if they don't read the email, you can't really expect them to read the FAQ. So that's a problem. And then along with the wall of text, we tell people, hey, watch these 50,000 videos to catch up. And that's pretty rough, right? So, of course, we're exaggerating a little bit on the 50,000 videos, but there's at least 4 or 5 videos there with links that we kind of expect people to watch. So we're going to change that. We're going to make it a single video, and then you can watch that short video. I'm going to keep it less than 5 minutes. It's going to tell you all about the group, the resources available, and then from within the video, you can click the different links inside, and it'll take you to different places. Another thing with the onboarding process is we may think of pairing people up. Not really like not like a mentor program or anything like that, but just like a buddy program, so that when you join up, you have a buddy and you can kind of ask them basic questions and they'll help you along. So I'm thinking about that. That's not set in stone, but the onboarding process definitely needs to change. And the guide I'm using for this is Cisco's Fast Start onboarding process. So when people start at Cisco, they go through onboarding, and it helps them stick around. It lets them know the resources available, and makes you guys into a better team. Second concern is, I know we've been a little bare on the CCNA and CCNP level courses. Right now, we are full in on CCIE study groups, so we're concentrated on the high end. The problem with that is the distribution of beginners to experts in our group. If we were to make a graph, and over here is the CCNA guys, and in the middle is CCNP, and on the right side is CCIE. If you were to take a graph of the skill levels, you would see that there's a lot of CCNA guys. There's actually a lot more CCNP level guys. And then when we get to CCIE, we're down here a little bit. If that's the distribution, which I think it is, it doesn't really make that much sense to continue having all of our concentration of classes in this area when there's not that many people. So we'll keep with the Cisco, these study groups here, but we need to do something on the lower end with the CCNA and CCNP classes. Okay, participation levels. We've seen this as in leadership and the co-organizers. Anyone who's organized a meeting in RouterGods has seen that we have certain meetings that 20 people will sign up. So 20 people sign up, they RSVP, say, I'm going. And then when the meeting actually starts, there's 5 people actually there. So 15 people ghosted, and it really sucks. So if it's a meeting like mine, it sucks. It's not that big of a deal. But for meetings where we have to reserve a lab, then it's a really big deal, because that lab could have gone to someone else. So we're going to take a look at this right now. I am marking people down as whether they attend or not, but it's just me doing it. And it is a pain in the ass because I have to remember who shows up and who doesn't. So I don't expect all the organizers to do this. If you want, you can. It's cool. but it just helps us develop a trend of who's just reserving and not showing up, and who's actually participating. So we'll think of different ways or solutions for that. And we do need more organizers. So we need more organizers to help with CCNA and CCNP level classes. So if you know someone, or if you think you can hold a meeting, private message us in Slack, or ask any of the co-organizers. We can definitely give you a platform for that. And you don't have to be like the most awesome CCNP or CCNA level guy. A lot of these, when I started doing this, I wasn't that great either. So, it's okay as long as you help organize the class. That's 90% of the effort right there. Okay, so that's where we've been. That's the concerns. What are we doing in the future? Why? It's like, what are we aiming for? We're aiming for, in the next year and next couple years, more meeting topics. So we've been on Cisco Data Center. We're going to be looking at NSX and VMware. Very important, extremely important if you're working in IT right now, is knowing how to work with VMware. James has joined as a new co-organizer. He teaches NSX classes for real, for VMware. So he can help with those classes. We're going to be looking more at OpenStack and all that entails. And for us to be looking at OpenStack, we kind of have to be looking at Linux as well. We have to do more Linux classes, because jumping right into OpenStack without Linux background is going to be pretty painful. So we have to do some beginning Linux classes. Along with, we might do some more Wireshark classes, stuff like that. So kind of widen our number of topics in terms of meetups. We've already talked about the onboarding process. Also, another thing that's going to be pretty cool, I think, is our monthly update. Instead of hitting you with a wall of text that I sometimes do, like every other month I hit you with the wall of text, update for June or update for May, and it's like 2,000 pages. We're going to keep it short and sweet. I learned this trick from YouTube. So for the YouTube partners out there, when you get a studio access, you are given a monthly update, and it's 1 minute, it's 60 seconds. So we're going to do that RouterGods 60-second update every month. It'll be thrown on YouTube, and just watch that and you'll be done. So reading a wall of text, that's one thing. Watching 60 seconds video, that should be much easier. Shirts, we're going to get something to where we can be recognized at conventions and stuff a little bit easier. Now, with shirts, with official RouterGods shirts, we have to play a fine line here. And the fine line is look decent. So on the left side, it's like, okay, we want shirts that look decent. On the right side, we don't want to start looking like Scientology uniforms and look like dorks. So, this fine line here, we definitely want to stay on this side and don't want to go on the right side. And so with this polo shirts, very subtle RouterGods logo, is probably just going to be like hashtag RouterGods or something like that. And then the distinguishing factor is the colors, modified Star Trek colors. If you have no cert or CCNA, you get the red shirt, and you Star Trek guys will know exactly what the red shirt means. CCNP level guys, blue shirt, and then people who get CCIE or the leadership guys, you get the gold shirt. I don't know how much it's going to be. It's going to be at cost, and then maybe a couple bucks, and then all the proceeds or all the profits from this go to pay for the fuse and go to pay for the meetup fees, which aren't cheap. So the meetup fees, they recently updated them. I have to pay them every 6 months, and it hurts a little bit. The fuse is not too bad. Fuse is like $90-something per year, so we're okay here. I think it's $96 here, but the shirts will help pay for that. Yes, so Juniper, we're definitely looking at Juniper. You've probably seen on a lot of job ads that they're asking for Juniper a little bit more, especially when you're looking at companies like big ISPs, because that's kind of where Juniper plays. If you looked at a recent job ad by Riot Games, you've probably seen Juniper stuff. And there's a couple others. A lot of the CDNs use Juniper. It's going to be one of those important things that you have to learn. It's not a big deal. The command line interface is a little bit different. They call things a little bit different, but we need to, if someone out there knows Juniper, we definitely want to hear from you on this. We definitely need help with the Juniper stuff. And that also goes for, if we want Arista classes or something like that. I think we have help in that area. We can ask William to help with Arista if he has time. Okay, for our moonshot. Well, we have some minor moonshots. Our boot camps, I guess you can consider them minor moonshots. They take a lot of effort to put up. People aren't really sure if they'll succeed or not. The Bangkok one's pretty good, but I think we have enough experience with the boot camp so far where generally these tend to be successful. So it's not that big of a deal to do the boot camps. Our moonshot for this year is, some of you may remember way back, I think 15 years ago or whatever, there was a video out there, something called like Warriors of the Net or something like that. That's probably not the exact title, but it was something like this. And this was I think it was a 15-minute video that taught about networking. Now, it didn't teach you command line or anything like that, but it gave an overview of what a router did, an overview of what a switch did, an overview of firewalls and stuff like that. So this video was very famous. It's kind of like if you watch the recent Cosmos series with Neil deGrasse Tyson, it had that kind of feel. So you would watch this, and then if you weren't in networking, you'd be like, dude, I want to go into networking. Now, the thing with this video, it's very old. It hasn't been updated since then. So my moonshot for this year, and with your guys' help, is we're going to make an updated version of this video. So I don't know if it's going to be a single video or if we're going to aim it at like a Cosmos type series, but it's going to be one of those things where we have to learn a couple things here. We're going to have to learn like to get the 3D animation down. We're going to have to learn Blender, Adobe After Effects, that type of stuff. It's not that big of a deal. Things like how are we going to script it? What are we going to say? That's probably going to be the biggest thing, especially if we're going to do a series type deal. So we'll put this on the RouterGods channel. This will be kind of our big ticket video for the year, and not necessarily to get people into the group, but it's going to be a way to pay back the internet. And for anyone who's trying to get into networking, maybe this should be the go-to video to get people started. Our moonshot for this year is doing an updated version of that video, and hopefully by July of next year, we'll have something there for the public to see. We already talked a little bit about the YouTube channel. It's been updated, cleaned up, looks so pretty now, so corporate. And for anyone who's thinking about doing the same thing, it wasn't that hard. You just go to Fiverr, and I paid a guy $20 to make, not 20, but it was about $50. And he made that logo. It's called a banner, and he made that button there. And he did it in about 2 days. Yeah, looks pretty good. I mean, not exactly what I wanted, but I'll roll with it. And so more professional, the car show videos. You've probably noticed for the last several months, no car show videos. Where'd they go? What happened to them? So I can't put them up on RouterGods anymore for the foreseeable future because I've under contract not to. But that doesn't mean that there could be another channel coming up called Evil RouterGods. So Evil RouterGods will have all the car show videos. When that eventually pops up, I still have 1 to 200 videos from the Bangkok Motor Show that I haven't put up yet, and also the motorcycle shows and stuff like that. So that's all going to be going up on RouterGods, Evil RouterGods. The ones that are currently on RouterGods will stay there. They're not being deleted or anything like that. So if they're there already, they're staying. But all the new ones, they're going on a different channel. And that should keep everything somewhat clean, I guess. Website revamp. I just recently posted the GNS3 updated configs for Narvik and INE for version 5, CCIE route switch version 5. That was my first real update to the website in more than a year and a half. So I've kind of let the website go. We're going to fix that. And the big impetus to fix that is Meetup.com. So right now, Meetup.com, we use it for the membership listing, the membership management features. We sort of use the email list, not as much anymore, very little in terms of using the email list because we have Slack. But that's kind of the two things, and then setting up meetings, right? So we use it to set up meetings. So we set up a meeting and then you get the email. So that's kind of the three things we use Meetup.com for. The email list, Slack takes care of. The meetings, we could probably buy a WordPress plugin to take care of this. The membership stuff, we could probably get a WordPress plugin to take care of that as well. So you can see right there that Meetup.com, if we so choose, in the future, I could hit a button and tell Meetup.com to take a hike. Now, we haven't reached that point yet. We may in the future, depending on a couple months ago, we got an email saying they were not happy with us. And I won't get into the politics of that, but we're kind of on the edge, I think, with Meetup.com. But if they push it, we can very well just not use them anymore. But before that happens, we would have to go through a website revamp. So I don't think it would be that difficult. It would just be about a couple weeks of pain with that. But I think we'll be all right. The website revamp would be a better use of a calendar, better use of some way of handling events. So signing up for events. And then I haven't thought about it yet. Maybe a forum, maybe not. The problem with the forum is, why would you go to our forum? You just go to Tech Exams forum or anyone else's forum, INE's forum, Cisco Learning Network, stuff like that. So maybe a forum, maybe not. But that's coming down the pipeline. The website has to be revamped anyways, so we're going to slowly do that. And then our vision for the future. So our vision for the future over the next 3 years or so. I've got a multi-phase plan to open up linked, telepresence-equipped classrooms or safe houses around the world. We've been talking about this for a while. As with RouterGods, it often starts up as a joke, and then we just kind of run with it. So right now, what we've got is, you've probably noticed that some schools, what they do is, let's say this is the US, and this is LA, and this is Colorado, and this is New York. So these guys have classrooms across the US, and they have a telepresence thing. Telepresence is the monitors with the cameras in all the classrooms. If the teacher is in LA, he can run a class, and the students in the Colorado area, they can show up here, and it's telepresenced to Colorado. So these students don't need to travel to LA. And of course, the teacher doesn't need to travel to Colorado. Now you may be wondering, why would you do this? Why would you not fly the teacher to Colorado, or why would you not have the students to LA? The thing is, when you run a class, you generally need about 5 to 6 people to make money, to be profitable. The reason is you need to pay for airfare and the hotel and the per diem and all the food for the instructor. That's a lot of money. I can tell you right now that the big schools will have a per diem of $100 or something dollars. The food is a lot. You're paying $100 or more per night for the hotel. Airfare is going to be several $100 at least, because it's usually a last-minute trip. So you're talking about a couple $1,000s for that instructor to go across. So that's why it takes 5 to 6 people. If you do the telepresence, you can make money with 2 to 3 people. So that's what these schools do. What we're thinking about is multi-phase approach. We got my place in Redlands. We're going to update the video cameras and the audio in Redlands. I've got Fios, so I've got good upload. So we're looking at the Logitech C3300 camera, which is this badass camera. And you can zoom, you can pan, you can do all that type of stuff. Going to be looking at whiteboards for that. We'll take the lessons learned from that, and hopefully within 1 or 2 years, phase 2 will be some location in central USA. So pick some type of small classroom, small house, whatever. Set that up with a telepresence outfit, camera, stuff like that. And then, of course, Redlands and Central US will be linked. Most likely, it will probably be either Kansas or Austin. And the reason for that is Google Fiber and cost. It's low cost for the housing, for the offices, and we have a fast internet. And being central, it's easier for people to get to. So that's why we have that. And then after phase 2, some places in the central US, we take all the lessons learned from phase 2 and open a spot in Asia. Haven't picked a place. Bangkok is high on the list. Taipei is high on the list. But all 3 of these will be linked so that if we run a meetup from Redlands, then all the other places will get it. As far as paying for all this, in the beginning it's going to be paid out of my pocket. It's not a big deal. But eventually it's probably going to work on like a hackerspace concept. A hackerspace is you pay like, I don't know, let's say $10 a month. I don't know if it will be $10 a month, but something per month, like a health club or something like that. And then with that, you get a key card. And then with this key card, you can go in that room, whenever, right? So if you need a quiet place to study, it can be a quiet place to study. Also, the co-working spaces work on the same deal. So co-working spaces. So co-working and hackerspace, where you pay something per month. Kind of looking at that thing. We're going to try to keep costs low, low cost areas and stuff like that. So why do this? Several reasons why. Right now, it's basically myself and Catherine, and Jeff's helping out as well with classes and meetings, which is good. The problem with myself is I tend to lead a very high-risk lifestyle. I tend to disappear off to war zones, protests. I mean, I go in the middle of riots. I do stuff that most people would not think of. So it's a high risk. Anything could happen. So we need to give an opportunity for the next generation of instructors to teach. We need to give venues for those guys to come up. There's lots of good instructors out there. The problem is places like I&E and Micronics and other places, you have to be really, really, really good to teach for them, or else they're not going to spend the money to hire you. So there are good instructors out there, but they just haven't been given an opportunity or a venue to teach. So we're going to have these places for those guys to teach. And if you want to do that, you get the place for free. So as long as you teach to other RouterGods members, you're cool. And you could use that video for practice. You could use the presentation stuff for practice. And then hopefully you get like a real job after that. So that's there. Also, we're going to open it up to other vendors. So if, I don't know, Global Knowledge needs a room to teach, they can use that room. We'll charge them, but we won't charge them like the Marriott will charge them, $400, $500 a day. So that's kind of how much they pay for like those meeting rooms and stuff. We'll make it reasonable, and that way we level the playing field between the big guys like Global Knowledge and the small guys. And you can imagine who the small guys are. So we shrink this down to where we give a level playing field in terms of a venue. And then we might do some agreement like, okay, we'll give you the room for cheap as long as you help teach, there'll be RouterGods members on the other side or something like that. Right? So that's our aim there, is to get the next generation of instructors out there for people. And also for, there's a lot of students who want to go to training, but they don't have money, right? So I don't want to say it, but, they're poor. Okay, not poor, but low income. They live in the middle of the U.S., and flying out to California is a lot of money, or flying to New York is a lot of money. So instead, they can go to Kansas City, go in that room, use a key card, go in that room, turn on the telepresence, and it's 90% the same. And then eventually, phase 3, when we get it to Asia, is we give the Asia folks a chance for learning. Okay, we'll end up on a humorous note, and then I'll open up for questions generally. We've always had this fixation at RouterGods with doing crazy stuff, just doing things off the cuff. And, we have our patron saints, and Leroy Jenkins, for you World of Warcraft players, he's been our patron saint for a while. Bill O'Reilly has been our patron saint. And then for this year, we will elevate to sainthood Shia LaBeouf. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but if you Google his name, you will find some interesting YouTube videos that he has done recently. So I think that is deserving of sainthood inside the RouterGods mythology. So our three, you could call them the Holy Trinity if you want, but those are the three people that we we don't look up to. I guess you could say we worship them, but they're there. Okay, on that note, questions about RouterGods, where we've been, what we're doing, and what we're doing in the future. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is I am planning on instituting rolling, I don't want to call it a stop loss, but how should I say it? When we hit 1,100 members, so to help with the participation rate, what we have is we have these instances of we have a spurt of new members and then nothing, and spurt of new members and nothing. And what happens when these new members come in is leadership gets hit with all the crazy questions. It's very taxing on the organizers, because we have people asking, okay, are all the meeting times in Pacific time? What time is it? Are these meetings recorded? I mean, all the stuff that the regular users have asked already, but because they're new, these questions haven't been asked before. You know, they're new members. What do you expect? So what we're doing is every 100 members, I'm going to institute a suspension of, let's say 1 to 2 weeks. We kind of halt new members. So when we hit 1,100, we stop it for 1 to 2 weeks. We let everything calm down. This is our hold down timer. We let everything calm down. Let the leadership catch their breath. Let all the other members catch their breath. We open it back up. And then when we hit 1,200 members, we stop it for 2 weeks. Let everyone catch their breath again. Because if we don't do that, all of our organizers are going to get burnt out, and it takes a toll. So, you know, something like, I don't know if it's going to be every 100. That kind of sounds like a best bet, but you know, it might be every 50 members. You know, so at 1,100 and 1,150, we do a stop loss. Now, for current members, it doesn't affect you that much, but it's going to be for mainly for the new members' benefit. That way, we can concentrate our efforts on the new guys, and then, you know, we don't get constantly hit with new members every single day. You know, so I think that should help with participation and our onboarding process. So we do have members who donate from once in a while. I never asked for donations or anything like that, but it's just been a surprise. You know, it just popped up. So I mean, that's cool. The actual cost of it is not really. I mean, it's basically about $300 a year. It's the time that's the cost. You know, as far as funding the meetup, I think the best thing to do is the shirts, because you get something out of it. You get a shirt, and then maybe we charge like $1 or $2 more on top of that, and that helps to pay for the meetup and the fees like that. So I think something like that makes more sense instead of just straight out donation. But you know, maybe we can revisit that in the future. Let's see. Damien has a question. Any plans for an East Coast facility? Maybe. You know, the thing with having too many locations in the U.S., then it gets a little unwieldy. You know, I think we would be okay with having a central U.S. location, and then, you know, take a look at it from there, see how the central U.S., see how Kansas City does. So if Kansas City goes bonkers, which it may, then I could do something like, I don't know, New York or something. Now, the problem with that is New York has no shortage of training companies and training centers. Right there in New York, Global Knowledge, and I think it's Netcom. So Global Knowledge and Netcom are the two gorillas there. I would be competing against those two. I would be seen as a threat. So, yeah, I definitely don't want to do that. Plus, New York, something on the East Coast like New York, rent in, I mean, geez, it would not be cheap. Chris has a question. Staying with Fuse for the big meetings, yes. You know, like something like this where we have 20, 30 people, it would be too much for Google Hangouts. And Paul has a question, that stop loss thing, would it be, we're at 10,096 members. Yeah, we'll probably be by the end of the week. Probably by the weekend, we'll hit 1100. Okay, so Fidel asks, do we keep track of how people progress since joining the group? We probably should. We probably should have some type of, World of Warcraft, spec or achievement thing. I mean, those of you guys who play World of Warcraft, let's say this is the warrior. Fury defense. Oh, I can't believe I remember this shit. Fury defense and arms, right? So this is the spec. You go down the tree, right? So I'm thinking Khan Academy has something like this too. So I'm thinking about like doing something like this for RouterGods. I would just have to program it where we keep track of people as they progress and how they learn. So let's say this is like, I don't know, you start off CCNA here. And this, when you learn DHCP, you get like a box and it goes down, and maybe down here is the final lab or something like that. So we're thinking about that because right now you're just thrown in RouterGods. We don't know who you are. We don't know what you know. There's no tracking of that, and maybe there should be some type of tracking to where if an employer asks me, hey, do you have a CCNA guy? Because I'm looking for a data center guy in Orange, California. I can give them a link, a URL to, I don't know, Fidel, right? So you'll have like some URL at RouterGods that points to your name and say, hey, look, he's been to this many meetings. He's done this. I've seen him lab and do this. And here you go. So that is something that we've talked about. We just haven't been that serious because it requires some type of programming knowledge. So if you want to look at this, something similar, if you go to Khan Academy, good website, by the way. If you go to Khan Academy, they have a student tracker that tracks like how far you go into math and algebra and stuff like that. You can take a look at their tracking program. Okay, thanks everyone for attending. This has been recorded. It will be posted up to YouTube sometime tonight. So if you missed the first part of it or any part of it, you came in the middle, no problem. You can just go on YouTube and watch it. And if you think of any questions afterwards, just go on our Slack channel and you can ask me directly, or better yet, post it in the general so that everyone can see it.